Welcome to the lecture on Web Service Security. In this chapter, first we will see about what you mean by web service. So web service is any piece of software that make itself available over the internet and uses a standardized XML messaging system. XML is used to encode all communication to a web service. For example, a client may invoke a web service by sending an XML message and then wait for corresponding XML response. So, security is critical to web services. In this chapter, we are going to study about how security will be provided for web services with respect to confidentiality, authentication, and network security. Introduction. The emergence of web in 1993 has helped to change the way in millions of users shop, bank, and pay their bills. The availability of the web, that is 24 into 7 around the clock, the interactive nature of the web application and personalized nature of experience on some website have all played a major role in providing convenience to the users. The earlier web application used Java Servlet, JSP or ASP. Scalability and reusability together with support for transaction processing, security, etc. was provided by the next generation of component based web technology such as J2E and .NET. Securing the communication link was made possible through the use of SSL protocol, that is Secure Socket Layer Protocol. So many of the earlier web application involved human to program interaction. But applications such as supply chain management, it is different from the traditional web application in several significant aspects. That is, the programs communicate with each other over the web with little or no human intervention. Services might have a composite nature, such as composite service, that may involve multiple providers, each will be providing a atomic service. There are potentially a large number of atomic service provider offering different services, so client will have a choice and can dynamically change the provider too. The client and provider may be running application using different web technologies on diverse computing platform with different operating systems. Just consider the example of a web-based travel planning. It is an application that possesses many of the features what we have discussed. A user might visit a website for travel for his or her travel agent to book an airline ticket. It would be convenient if the user could also reserve a room or rent out a car in the same login session. In this case, there are four atomic service providers: the travel agent, the airline, the hotel chain, and the car rental company. For a given travel destination, the travel agent site also offers the user a host of hotel sites and car rental options. There are thus multiple atomic service provider a user may choose from that which suit best for his needs and budget. As part of the travel service application, the user should be able to visit or exit the four website and perform transaction with no other human interaction. The travel site would have business partnership with airlines, hotels, car renter listed on the web page, but the computing platform and the software that power their application might be very different from each other. So all these travel planning uh, websites we will be using in our day-to-day life. So once if you enter into this planning travel planning website, they will provide you all the options. They will allow you to book the tickets, they will allow you to rent the hotel, they will allow you to book the cars. All these plans are directly provided in the website itself. So the W3 definition for web services is: a software system identified by a URI, Universal Resource Identifier, whose public interfaces and bindings are defined and described by Extensible Markup Language (XML). Its definition can be discovered by other software systems. This system may then interact with the web service in a manner prescribed by its definition using a XML based messages conveyed by internet protocols. So first we'll see what are the entities that are involved in the web service. So a atomic web service involves basically three entities: the requester, the provider, that is the server, requester is the client, and the registry. So here first, the service provider register or publish their services into the public registry. The requester discovers services by querying the registry for services that matches certain criteria. Once a requester identifies a service provider who provide that service, then it will bind to and invokes the services of that provider. What are the technologies for web service? So here we are basically going to discuss about XML, Extensible Markup Language, SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol, WSDL, Web Service Definition Language, UDDI, Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. So first we will see what we mean by Extensible Markup Language. So as you will be knowing, XML is a meta language which has a mechanism to identify structure in the document or to specify presentation style or format. So you will be having knowledge about XML. XML will have a predefined set of tags. So whenever your browser processor come across that tag, it will be knowing about how to render that tag or how to present content of that tag on the screen. But XML don't have this predefined set of tags. So here tags are used to describe the structure of the data. That means here tags are user defined. For example, you can consider a paragraph tag in HTML. Inside a paragraph tag, you can write name, you can write your USN, you can write your college name. But all these three different informations are encoded inside the paragraph tag. So here paragraph tag don't have anything to do with its content, means it will not tell what it contains. But instead of that, in XML, you can define your own tags. For example, you can write name inside a tag called as name. USN, you can write inside a tag called as USN. So here, the tag name will give some information about what it contains. Name tag means it contains a name. So here, XML tags are used to describe structure of the data. So the most basic markup that will found in all XML document is an element within the document. So the start of an element within a document is indicated by a start tag which contain name of the element within the angular brackets, and end tag can be recognized by slash to the immediate right of the opening angular tag. So here an element can contain data, or it may contain other sub elements, or may contain both. For example, you can consider a tag as address. The address tag, inside that it can contain some subtags like street number or city or some location tag. Location, all that information can be contained inside address. These are part of the address, so these will be written as sub elements. An element may contain 0 or more attributes. So here you can specify the attribute for a element. An attribute is basically a name value pair which will appear after name of the element in the start tag. So here you can view one of the tag, look over here, this is a item tag. Here you will have part number is equal to some number. So this is attribute, part number is attribute of item. So this is a simple purchase order from XML. So here the root element of this is purchase order. Look, everything is enclosed within purchase order. So this purchase order again have different elements inside that. First is the shipment to, so here country is an attribute, this is the nested elements. So here the shipment to contain to whom, name, street number, city, state. Here you can see each of the tag is with respect to the value what it contain. It will tell about the value. So again it will have different items. So here in this case there are two items. Within items tag there are two items which are defined. So item with part number 129BZ and 798RD. So inside item again the product name, quantity and unit price is specified. So this is the way of defining a XML document. Now the problem is whenever whenever the browser encounter this document, it can find different tags, but it will not be knowing about how to render these tags because these are user defined tags. So in order to define that, XML schemas are used. So XML schema will give information about how a user defined tag can be processed by the browser. So this defines set of rules. These will indicate what is that element type, if it is name, whether it is a string, decimal, complex. So it will tell what kind of information that tag contain. For example, if it is a name, it contain a string. What is an element option? If not, how many times that will it occurs? For example, some a student may will have a unique USN ID. Like that, some elements will have one value or some other tags will have multiple values. So that can be specified. And also, does an element have an attribute? And what is the content of the element and what are its sub elements? And what is the sequence of element and how they can be nested? All these rules are specified in the XML schemas. The next one is a protocol, that is Simple Object Access Protocol. So SOAP is basically a framework for exchanging structural information over the internet. So SOAP protocol define one-way message transfer between two entities. So SOAP message is an XML document which is made up of an envelope. So here in SOAP, envelope is the root element of every SOAP message. So it contains two child elements. One is the header, other one is the body. So here header is always optional, body is the mandatory thing. The header may include security meta information such as encryption algorithm used or digital signature compute on the message, etc. It is used to pass application related information that can be processed by SOAP nodes along the message path. So here SOAP body is mandatory sub-element of SOAP envelope. It contains information that are intended for ultimate recipient of the message. So the SOAP will run on the top of HTTP or SMTP. The mapping between the SOAP message and underlying transport protocol is referred as SOAP binding. So in the case of HTTP binding, either a GET request or POST request can be used. So this will show a HTTP POST request and how SOAP is used. So here it is a SOAP message, so you can see SOAP envelope is defined. So here within the body, which is mandatory, some information regarding that communication is sent. Similarly, this is again a HTTP response message and again it is encoded inside the SOAP envelope. So next one is WSDL, Web Service Definition Language. So it is a language for describing web services. It exposes the operation and communication protocols used by the web service. So, a complete WSDL service description will include definition of various elements like type, messages, operations, port types, and binding. So, at the heart of web service description, it is basically a port type which specify one or more operation within its scope. So, operation, it is again an abstract definition of the action. It involves one or more messages. More commonly, an operation receive a request and send a response. A message is an abstract definition of data that is exchanged as part of the operation. Message can have multiple parts. Each part has the associated DL permits the web service developer to indicate the specific communication protocols to be used in the support of each operation. This is referred as binding, which includes SOAP, HTTP POST, and HTTP GET. So this is the port type which are included in one operation, that is comprises of two messages. So here two messages, message 1 and message 2 are defined over here. So this is the port type definition which include two different messages. The next one is UDDI, Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. So UDDI is basically a registry or a catalog that allow business across the globe to list themselves on the internet. The client discover web services by querying the registry for specific services using SOAP message. In response, they can provide access to the WSDL that describe the operation, messages and protocols for the desired web service. The registry include the equivalent of white, yellow and green pages of a telephone directory. That is, white pages provide addresses and contact information of a service. Yellow pages provide an industrial categorization of the service, and the green pages provide information about services that the business exposes. So next we'll see what you mean by SSL. So SSL, it is a widely used protocol for securing web communication. However, there are a number of reasons why SSL is not suitable for use in web services. Messages created or received by web services may involve several intermediaries. Since SSL is a point-to-point protocol, messages will have to be decrypted and re-encrypted by intermediary. What web services require is not point-to-point but an end-to-end security. Another limitation of SSL is that it is a transport layer protocol that performs encryption and integrity protection of transport level entities. It actually does not understand XML. Encryption and signing of specific element of a messages are required by the web services. So SSL on the other hand encrypts and integrity protects messages in their entirety. What is web services require is actually a fine-grained message protection. Web service security. Web service security addresses some of the most basic problems in securing the messages used in web services. Its main functions are: it will define XML elements that are used to communicate security tokens in the header of the SOAP message. Together with the XML encryption standard, it defines the syntax and processing rules used to encrypt one or more part of the SOAP message. Together with the XML signature standard, it will define the syntax and processing rules used to create and represent a digital signature on one or more part of the SOAP message. Security related informations, usually it will be contained within a tag called as security elements in the SOAP header. The security element include security tokens, keys, signature, timestamp, and security meta information. A security claim is a statement made about a subject identity, signing key, a subject's privilege, etc. A claim may be made by the subject himself or by another party on the behalf of the subject. One or more claims are represented by security tokens. For example, username plus password, an X509 certificate or a Kerberos ticket. The username plus password is one of the most commonly used security token. The default is to send the password in the clear, but it is not a very secure option. Alternately, we can encrypt the password along with a nouns and timestamp. These may be concatenated and then hashed using a cryptographic hash function such as SHA-1. So the username, hash and nouns and timestamps are sent in a username token. So this is an example of username token. Here you can see the username, the password which is encrypted, the nouns is sent along with this timestamp, that is the created, when it is created, that information. The security tokens containing usernames are pure text. Some tokens are contain binary data such as signature or keys. The binary security token element is used in this case. So this is an example for that. Next is how XML encryption will take place. The XML encryption standards was developed by W3C in 2002. It defines XML elements for representing encrypted data and keys used for encryption. One of its key attributes is that it allows encryption at different level of granularity. That is, it may be on the entire document or maybe a complete XML element within the document or on the content of the XML element. The standard permits any combination of elements within the body or the header of the SOAP message to be encrypted. The encrypted data element is used to represent encrypted data in the SOAP message. So you can view over here, this is the encrypted data element. So it will include the which algorithm is used and information on the key used for encryption may also be placed. The actual ciphertext for each encrypted message is encrypted inside the cipher value sub element. So if the key used for encryption is a short term or a session key, then it should be transmitted in the encrypted form. For this purpose, it encloses an encrypted key element and it will be placed in the SOAP header. The key info element identify the keys used to encrypt the short term key. The ciphertext of the encrypted short-term key appears in the cipher value element. The segments of the SOAP messages which are encrypted using short-term key is indicated by reference list sub-element. So here you can see all these elements. You will have encrypted key. It is what kind of encrypted algorithm we will use, that information will be inside this, and we will have the key info tag over here, and also we will have cipher data and reference list tag. It will contain the encrypted segments that are included in the encrypted key. All this information will be present. Next is XML signature. The XML signature standard was developed jointly by W3C and IETF in 2002. It specifies the syntax for signatures and signature keys while offering a rich set of options for signing the XML document. For example, a part of the document can be signed by an entity. One or more intermediaries may attach their signature to the document. Two entities may sign overlapping or disjoint part of the document. Like standard RSA signature, XML signature involve computing the hash of the document followed by the encryption using signer's private key. The first step in generating an XML signature is canonicalization. The part of the document that need to be signed are first transferred into canonical form before computing their hashes. Canonicalization guarantees that syntactically identical documents produces the same serialized representation. Signatures are included in the header of the SOAP message containing the document. More specifically, they are contained in a signature element in the header. This diagram will show tree for signature element. So here signature element will become the key. So the signed info within this element, it is included information about canonicalization algorithm and signature algorithms. And again this is having sub elements. So a single signature is computed over possibly multiple elements in the document. Some of the element may be in the header and other may be in the body of the SOAP messages. So reference to all these are included within signature info. Each reference is followed by the digest algorithm used computing in digest and the digest values. The signature value, this element contains the digital signature. The next one is key info. This element typically include reference to key materials that is needed for verifying the signature at the receiver end. Next is SAML, Security Assertions Markup Language. So we'll see what is this with the help of an example. Consider a principal C who happen to be a long-term client of service provider SP1. Each time C requests a service from service provider 1, he need to be authenticated. This can be done through the standard login password route. Another possibility is for service provider 1 is to store a cookie in C's browser which would be transparently dispatched to SP1 each time when C visits service provider 1's website. The browser cookie could be stored in encrypted form information about C's identity. Relevant attributes of C may also be stored in the browser cookie or at the server. Now suppose C wishes to use the services of another service provider, let it be SP2. If C is a total stranger to SP2, on what basis might SP2 trust C? That is, if SP1 and SP2 share a trust relationship, then SP2 could read the cookie stored in C's browser that is created by SP1. The cookie could include information such as SP1 trusts C. If SP2 knows that SP1 trusts C, then SP2 might also be willing to trust C. But this solution will have a serious problem. It will lead to a serious problem. In particular, browsers do not allow cookies created by one server to be dispatched to a server in the different domain. So, for example, a cookie created by the web server at www.csc.iitb.ac.in can be read by a server at www.ee.iitb.ac.in. but not by web server, that is at www.csc.iitk. Previously, I have mentioned name as IITB. Now server is iitk.ac.in. It cannot be read by some other web server. So what are different assertion types? The Security Assertion Markup Language SAML developed in May 2002 by Organization for Advanced of Structured Information System OASIS is a standard that address such problems what we have basically discussed. So SAML provide XML schema for expressing the assertion about the principal. So there are three type of SAML assertion and their XML syntax are: an authentication statement is a assertion by identifier, for example SP1, that is I, that it did authenticate a principal C using a particular authentication message at a particular point of time. An attribute statement is an assertion by identity provider I that the value of attribute A for principal C is A. An authentication statement again is an assertion by identity provider I that principal C is permitted to perform an action or operation O on resource R. So this is an example of SAML assertion. It is an authentication statement containing the identity of the issuer and the principal. So here URL is used to identify the issuer, URL is used, and an email ID is used to identify the principal. The statement indicating the date and time in which principal was authenticated. It asserts that the principal was authenticated using a password transmitted through a protected channel. It also includes explicit condition that authentication is valid for 26 hours, that is not before, not after. This will give that duration. Other standard web service trust. So we'll see what you mean by web service trust. Two endpoints of a web service may have never interacted with each other. To build trust between themselves, they could use an intermediary known to both parties who could create a SAML token on behalf of the party that need to be authenticated. This is just one way of establishing trust. We need a framework that is more powerful and general. So here you can see a wish list, that is our framework should encompass different kind of trust, direct trust and indirect trust brokered by one or more intermediaries. Besides SAML token, we need to support other token types like simple password based token, digital certificate, Kerberos tickets, etc. Our framework should be able to define messages for requesting security tokens from a security token service. We also need to define messages that communicate these security tokens. Finally, we need to validate tokens received from a client. The WS Trust Standard is exactly the response to our wish list. Now just consider an example. Consider an importer I who wishes to import goods from an exporter E in another company. I and E are not known to each other. So we need to establish a trust relationship with each other. I and E have trust relationship with their local banks, that is IB and EB respectively. IB and EB do not have direct trust relationship with each other. They each do have a trust relationship with an intermediary, a well-known international bank called the correspondent bank CB. The trust relationship can be summarized as, so here you look at the beginning, I has a trust relationship IB, that is the bank, and E is having a trust relationship with EB. And IB and EB do not have any direct trust relationship, but IB trusts CB, which I mentioned as an international bank, and also EB trust CB. So now we'll look at how the trade will take place. So here first I authenticates himself to IB. Since IB and CB trust each other, IB requests CB to issue a security token to be used by I. Now CB will create a security token and include information such as maximum credit amount extended to I. Here, CB act as a security token service provider. CB communicate this token to IB, who will forward that into I. Now I will directly dispatch this token to E. Now E will request EB to validate this token. So EB may be able to validate the token on its own. If not, it will send it into CB and then send that information to E. So the success or failure of the validation process is communicated by CB to E through EB. So later, if the communication is successful, then I and E can trade each other. This is same thing. Next is web service security policies. Web service security policy enables a web service to simply specify the security tokens it will accept for authentication and access control. It conveys information about whether it requires all or part of the client message to be encrypted. If encryption is required, it will indicate the encryption algorithm that will be supported and what key size can be used. Also, the security policy may require that all or part of the message be integrity protected. So in this case, it also need to specify the integrity check algorithm. So when we consider the previous example, the trading between I and B, this policy regarding authentication will led out by the relevant entities may be as follows. An importer must authenticate himself to the local bank via a login name and password. A local bank must authenticate itself to the global bank using the challenge response protocol in conjunction with a digital certificate. An importer must authenticate himself to the given exporter through a SAML token signed by a global bank. This is all about web service security, and this completes module 4. Thank you.